TGIF, Nick. It's January 3rd. Today was a travel day for me, so please enjoy some high-quality shots of the metro I took while on my way back to Michigan. Thanks for your video yesterday, and especially for the questions about manned missions, radiation, and colonization. Radiation is a bit of a tough nut to crack when it comes to discussing manned space travel. Radiation is like the carbon monoxide of the space environment. Silent, but deadly. And weirdly odorless to boot. It kills quietly and without much fanfare. Referred to as the solar wind, radiation streams out from the sun like a giant omnidirectional death laser. Objectively, it sounds like it could be the Vashta Nerada or some other space-based Doctor Who villain. So, to move to your question, why isn't it brought up when discussing potential Mars missions, especially if it's so scary and dangerous? There are a few reasons that come to mind. First, it's not that much of a problem when we get to Mars, which is generally the fun part people tend to focus on. Most of the danger posed to astronauts comes during the interplanetary trip. Mars is thought to have a residual magnetic field from its star high school days as a planet with a magnetic dynamo a couple billion years ago. Coupled with its paper-thin atmosphere, these factors provide some protection on the surface. Nothing like the Ferrari of a magnetic field the Earth or Jupiter are sporting, but it gets some of the job done. NASA can further protect astronauts by building shelters with regolith, metal, or hydrogen-doped composite materials. For the interplanetary trip, protection technologies are still being developed. Technically, it is possible to protect them with current materials, but launch engineers generally don't like catapulting heavy lead boxes into space. I think another reason may be cultural. Most forms of radiation people interact with on a daily basis just aren't very frightening, so people may not take it as seriously as other threats from the space environment. This is pure conjecture on my part, and I would love to hear your views on this, but our most common run-ins with radiation are in the forms of radio waves from our phones, microwaves from our cooking appliances, and ultraviolet rays which squeeze past our upper atmosphere and tend to make the unprepared beachgoer a little red during the summer. People also voluntarily subject themselves to higher energy radiation for vanity, in the form of tanning beds, and even medical care, in the form of x-rays and cancer treatments. During the Cold War, the word radiation was accompanied by images of fallout and the end of the world. Nowadays, radiation is largely a servant of humanity, serving as our medicines, food sources, and cosmetics. While this change was happening, other dangerous elements in the manned spaceflight crept into the national consciousness through the shuttle disasters, EVA malfunctions on the ISS and shuttles, and more realistic science fiction films, like The Martian. Have a nice Friday. I'll see you tomorrow. As a footnote, a strong solar storm in the early 1970s occurred only a few months after the Apollo 16 mission. Had the astronauts been on the surface of, or en route to, the moon, they probably would have been fried, and we may be considering the challenge of radiation very, very differently.